You are listening to Leaders and Legends, a podcast presented by Veteran Strategies, an Indiana-based public relations enterprise, and federally certified veteran-owned small business. I'm your host, Robert Bain, along with our producer, Chris Spangle. Our podcast is featured on the All Indiana Podcast Network in partnership with Wish TV. You may find Leaders and Legends at allindianapodcastnetwork.com. Thinking of starting a podcast or need to host a public meeting? Let Leaders and Legends LLC be your partner as you look for new ways to communicate your message. Please contact us at chris@leadersandlegends.net. As always, all our podcast interviews are dedicated to the legacy and generosity of P.E. McAllister. Our guest today is Kenney, who the very first time she called me, accused me of not complying with the public records laws. Yes, that's exactly right.
Oh, I came in hot.
So that's 15 years ago, and I'm done being mad at her, finally. Kenney has won all the awards. She was named Indiana's Best Reporter in 2018 by the Associated Press. She was named Journalist of the Year in 2012. And you hadn't been here very long, a couple of years. Mm-hmm. By the Indiana Society of Professional Journalists. Awards. She is one of my two favorite Indiana University broadcast journalists here in this market, along with the wonderful and previous guest, Angela Ganote. Kara!
Yes. Thanks for having me. We've known each other for a long time.
You hadn't been in the market very long when you called me, and we're very aggressive.
Was I? Well, maybe I was just confident.
No. I was like, I got to quit this job if I got to keep talking to this chick, because I didn't like this at all. Do you remember why you called me?
I don't.
There was a fire or something at Rick's Boatyard Cafe.
Oh, okay.
And you asked for, and I hate to say this is a 100% true story. You put in this public records request. I didn't know you. Mm-hmm. I knew you from your billboards, Tough Question reporter, along with Joanna Massey.
So Joanna Massey was the Tough Question reporter. I was the government watchdog reporter. But we were all sort of unveiled in 2009 as part of this sort of new franchise that WRTV was trying at the time. And there was the Watchdogs and the Tough Question and the Rant. It was like kind of gimmicky stuff. But yeah, we all were brought together at the same time, Joanna and I.
Did you guys get along, you and Joanna?
Yeah. She's out of the business and has been for quite some time. But yeah, we got along.
She's Joanna Rosenthal still?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I really do like her husband. Yeah. He was here for a while.
Yeah.
At 59, I believe.
Yeah, we keep in touch on Facebook. But yeah, we did not get to work together very long, unfortunately.
Wasn't Rafael Sanchez, is that his name?
Yeah. Yeah,
that's his name. I think he was part of the package.
Yep. Yeah, he was a watchdog along with myself.
For heaven's sakes.
I know.
So you called me. You couldn't get the documents you wanted from the Department of Metropolitan Development. And I walked down there. I called you and said, or you called me and I said, what's the problem? Please explain. Mm-hmm. And you did. And I went down there and somebody was like, yeah, it's going to be embarrassing. I just don't really want to give it to her or I'm not in a hurry. And, I understood where this fellow was coming from. And I just said, Greg Ballard ran on transparency. You're not going to have to do the interview. I am. Give her the documents. Mm-hmm. And you had him that day.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And I do get the feeling sometimes that government agencies sort of slow play it so that by the time you get the records, it's kind of a moot point. The stories.
That's our equivalent of you just showing up someplace with a microphone and sticking it in someone's face.
Right. And I honestly don't like doing that. I really don't. I mean, it is a last resort to show up somewhere with a microphone to, confront someone with the tough questions. I really try to give everybody the ample opportunity to sit down and talk.
Would you get the sense that folks are... I used to ask Raphael about this because sometimes he would, we're working on a story together or doing whatever. He'd call me when he's on his way to interview someone. And I used to laugh. I'm like, do they know that you're on your way? And he goes, nope. How does that work?
So I think it's kind of a misconception that investigative journalists love to jump out of the bushes with a microphone. And, I've had to sort of learn this over the years, but really when you show up someplace, it should be the absolute last resort. So generally, if I'm showing up to say a public meeting to try to talk to the mayor, I'm trying to talk to a council person or something, that is after I've emailed, I've called and asked for an interview.
You've never just bum rushed someone on your first?
Not that I can think of ever. If it's somebody that's appearing in court, maybe it's a nurse accused of stealing medications. I've already reached out to the attorney. I've already reached out to them to try to get them to talk. No response. Okay, I'm showing up. So I don't recall any instance where I've just shown up out of the blue to try to get answers from someone where I haven't tried to reach out to them beforehand, either via email or phone call. Because let's face it, our goal is to get good information for our viewers, and you're going to get much better information if the person that's sitting down with you isn't hostile and they're prepared. If you're just showing up somewhere, people are immediately defensive and you're not really going to get a whole lot of good information. And so that's really the goal, is to get the best information possible. And usually when people are prepared, you get better stuff.
Is there sometimes a choice that journalists have to make, TV journalists, between better story or better television?
Yes, I don't know. I mean, that isn't really a conversation that we have. I mean, there's definitely times where after we've gone through the steps to try to talk to somebody and somebody, maybe they blow up on camera, you definitely go back and you're like, that's great TV. But it wasn't our intent. So is that what you're asking?
Well, you were saying that, and I understand your answer completely. You were saying, look, we've tried multiple times.
Yeah.
The story's better if the person's prepared and is willing to answer our questions. Okay, yeah, I get that the story could be better.
Yeah.
But the television the scene, the video may not be as compelling when someone's standing outside screaming at you about how dare you, this and that.
This might surprise you, but I will always lean toward being fair and accurate over getting crazy good video, because I want people to talk to me. And if my reputation is jumping out of the bushes all the time to people that aren't prepared, that don't know I'm coming, I mean, who's going to trust me and sit down with me and talk to me when I need them to? So I always would lean toward being fair to the people that I'm investigating and the people that I'm holding accountable versus trying to get a good crazy soundbite of somebody screaming at my camera.
So the next time you interview me, which would you rather have?
I would definitely have you sit down and be prepared, Robert Vane, instead of running away from me, Robert Vane. But yeah, I mean, and also, I mean, it's really uncomfortable to confront somebody that doesn't want to talk to you. And that's another reason why it's a last resort. I have a physical reaction when I do it. I might look confident on camera, but my hands are sweaty. I get my heart's beating, because at the end of the day, you don't know what people are going to do. I've had people try to kind of shove me out of the way.
I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah, no one's ever clocked me in the face or anything, but I have had people sort of shove me. And I had a suspect once who was home improvement contractor that was a fraud, and he came up to me and told me I was committing a felony because there was a no contact order in place. And I was like, what are you talking about? But there was part of me that was like, wait, what are you talking about? So yeah, I mean, it was a good TV moment, but I was still you're still talking to criminals sometimes, and that can be really unnerving.
That's a great point. You always take a camera person, right?
Yes.
You're never MMJ.
Yes.
For that reason, I'm assuming.
I am very fortunate that I'm probably the only person in my building that has a designated photographer. I am the only person that has a designated photographer, and a lot of that is for safety reasons, because we're going to court, we're trying to talk to people that are accused of crimes, we're talking to public officials. I need to be able to focus on what I'm doing and not on the camera. And props to the people that are MMJs and do it all by themselves, because that's a really hard thing to concentrate on the camera and the audio, but also what you're trying to ask and listen to what the person's saying. It's a lot. So I'm glad I don't have to do that.
You are listening to the Leaders and Legends podcast. Our guest today is Kara Kenney. Are you still Watchdoggy?
What's your title? Watchdog, just WRTV Investigates. reporter, investigative reporter.
Please listen to the entirety of this podcast because I'm going to ask her what it was like to have the second best hair at her own wedding because we love Phil.
I know.
Where were you born?
I was born in Anaheim, California, and my parents moved to Cincinnati when I was 1. So I actually grew up in Cincinnati. And when I was in high school, my dad said, "Oh, you want to go into journalism? You should look at Indiana University." And that's how I ended up at IU. And I was working in Fort Myers in 2009, and the assistant news director at WRTV called and said, "We're starting this watchdog thing. Would you be interested in coming to be a part of it?" Because I was doing like a sort of like a taxpayer watchdog segment down in Florida. And so that's how I ended up in Indianapolis.
But Indiana University, you could have gone to, lots of schools, Boston, Emory, Ball State.
Yeah.
There's all the ones.
Yeah.
Cincinnati's not particularly close to Bloomington, but it's not horrifically far away. What made you choose IU after you went there? I'm assuming you did a campus visit.
Yeah, I did campus visits. I went to Ohio University. I went to Syracuse University. But I can tell you, I'm not trying to be dramatic. When I went to Indiana University in Bloomington, it was over. I mean, I just fell in love with the campus. All the people were so nice. I loved the journalism school. I loved the fact that it was a big school. I wanted to go to basketball games and football games. And Syracuse was way too snowy and way too far. So
awful.
I know, awful. So I loved IU, from the moment I stepped foot on it. And my parents always joke, they're like, "We knew you had your mind made up. Why did you even look at the other schools?" I'm like, I just had to make sure.
Kara's lamenting the snow as we sit in the podcast studio with 12 inches of snow on the ground and it's 5 degrees.
Yeah.
But you still made the right choice.
Right, of course.
And you graduated from IU in the mid-90s?
Yeah, 2001.
2001?
Right.
Okay, so you weren't there for the really good Bob Knight years.
I did see Bob Knight coach, and I was there when he got fired.
Correct.
Yes.
So did you protest did you go to the quad or whatever it was?
I wasn't hardcore
Dunn
protesting,
Meadow?
But I'm pretty sure I covered it for the Indiana Daily Student. But I was also running around campus. I didn't do anything dumb, though, if that's what you're asking. Jump. I didn't steal anything or burn anything.
Ever in your 4 years at Indiana University, Kara Kenney didn't do anything dumb. True or false?
Wait, what podcast am I on? What are we recording?
It's the Indianapolis Roman Catholic Archdiocese podcast. I asked this question of everybody I know who went to IU. My 2 degrees are Indiana degrees, but I didn't go to Bloomington because it just didn't make sense financially. The GI Bill just meant so much more staying up here. Would you go back tomorrow to Indiana University and start all over again and be like, I want to have that experience all over again?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I actually have dreams about it.
Really?
I have dreams where they're really strange dreams because I'm back on the sorority house. But we all have our kids with us.
And do you have the money you have now? Because, that would be the blast.
I know. It's like we're grown, but we get to do it all over again. It's like everybody looks like they do now, but we get to start over. Yeah, I would love to because I don't think you can truly appreciate it when you're 19 like you can now. I mean, you look back and just to be able to focus on school and nothing else, really. I mean, it was the best. But yes, I would love to do it over again.
You graduated.
Would you?
Well, would I have gone through college again? See, I don't drink and I don't smoke and I don't do drugs and I don't dance and I don't gamble. And so any
of those things. These days, most of the kids aren't even drinking anymore.
That's true. I did see that. I did see that story.
Yeah.
I wish, even though I don't, my social graces and proclivities don't really lend itself to campus life.
Yeah.
I think I spun that relatively okay.
Right, uh-huh.
It just would have been fun to have the experience. I was my class, high school graduating class, graduated, in 86. And then so in 1990, most of the people with whom I went to high school who went to college were all getting out. I didn't start college till August of 1990 because I was in the Army. Of course, delaying myself 4 years did mean that I sat next to Angela Ganote in my very first political science class.
That's so cool.
So happy for her success.
Yeah.
She's such a wonderful, wonderful person.
I have mad respect for her, seriously.
Did you graduated the year before they went to the national championship game?
Yes. So I was actually working in Wausau, Wisconsin, which was my first job in television news. I'll never forget watching it on TV and wishing I was there. So yeah, I missed it by a year.
Did you go to many football games?
Yeah, I actually went to quite a few football games. I loved it. I mean, I would tailgate and go to football games. I went to basketball games. I remember being on the court, when they would rotate your tickets so that you got to sit down by the court for at least one game a season. So, yeah, I went to all that. Like, we were all about it.
So we are recording this a few weeks after Indiana University won the national championship in collegiate football. And I feel so happy, especially for, I'll just say my good friend, and I love him. I love Bill Benner.
Yeah.
He's had season tickets for decades, and he would drive down there when they were 0-11, and he and I would have lunch on Friday, with our good friend Mark Apple, and we'd just be like, what the hell are you doing? He's IU through and through, but Harry Gonzo, who was the IU quarterback, former chief of staff to Mitch Daniels, podcast guest. So happy for these folks who've been fans for so long. I hate to say this, but you've been an IU football fan for more than 20 years now, 25 years, Carol.
Not as loyal as those people, though. I will say, though, it is difficult, like when you have kids who are in sports, to like get down on the weekends and stuff. And so I have not been as dedicated as I would have liked over the past 15 years, but I also had kids 12, 13 years ago. So that's put a damper on my sports. But the thing is, like, there's this rhetoric out there about like bandwagon IU football fans. And like, I've always been an IU fan.
Right.
Has my interest in IU football peaked over the past year or two? Yes, definitely, like many people. But I think that's okay because like I've always been an IU supporter. I go down there regularly, usually at least once or twice a year, to talk to students and work with them and to visit and stuff like that. So like I've always been an IU fan, but like the people that have like gone to games even when they were like 0-11, like props to them, man.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that's, I hate to say this, the last time I watched IU play football, they lost.
Yeah.
I did not watch a single second of any game this year, including the playoffs or the national championships. And everyone's making fun of me. I'm superstitious, Vane, but that's ridiculous. And I'm like, now they're national champions. So I can never watch them again.
Yeah, now you can't. That's too
Have
funny.
you covered IU much?
No, not really.
On purpose?
No, I honestly don't get a whole lot of investigative tips about them. I would say the only time that I've really covered any sort of investigative angle was, God, it may have been like 8 years ago. We did a story about Title IX and investigations into like sexual misconduct and sexual assault and like how universities were counting them and handling that. I remember reaching out to IU at the time for data information and stuff, but other than that, we really haven't done a whole lot of investigative stories about IU. And again, a lot of it is driven by the tips that we get. And I just don't get a whole lot of tips really about universities. I think maybe, I don't know why that is. We get a lot more stuff about state government, city government, township government, that type of stuff, but not a whole lot of stuff related to universities. I'm not sure why that is.
You mentioned you're at the IDS, Indiana Daily Student. That's changed.
Yeah.
I like your opinion on that, A. But B, at a certain point, I was a journalist in the Army. At a certain point, you had to choose print or broadcast. Is that something that you did? It's like, I really want to do TV, or do they kind of counsel you in a situation where we think this is perhaps better for you?
Yeah, honestly, it's been so long. I don't even remember how those conversations came to be or like when, but I definitely obviously chose the broadcast track, and there's courses that you take that are more geared toward broadcast, like how to write for TV. Obviously, it's changed so much because this was really like when the internet was in its infancy, and like writing your web story was kind of like the afterthought. And now a lot of times you write it, it's like the first thought, But yeah, I mean, and then when I did internships, like I tried radio and I tried TV, and then obviously I worked in newspaper. So I feel like I've tried a lot of different things, but I always liked the visual part of TV. I just felt like you're kind of like telling people a story, like a visual story. And I liked that part of news the best.
Before joining WRTV, was it 2010 or 2009?
2009. Yep.
9. Because I was in the mayor's office from 8 to 10.
November 30th, 2009.
Really?
Yeah.
You were at Fort Myers, Florida.
Yes.
Is that good or bad?
Oh, it's amazing. I just couldn't afford to live there anymore.
Oh, really? Is it expensive?
It's expensive, and they just don't pay very well down there because they don't have to, because they can pay you in sunshine. But I loved working down there for 4 years. I mean, my weekends were spent at the beach. How bad can it be, right?
Then you were in South Bend.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Now, wasn't Angela Ganot in South Bend?
Not when I was there.
Sage Steele was in South Bend.
Okay.
I think they were there at the same time.
Yeah, I was at Fox 28, which is now defunct. It doesn't exist anymore, from 2003 to 2005. And then before that, it was in Wisconsin. So, yeah.
Wausau, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Did you get insurance through there? Do you remember that commercial?
Yeah.
But you came here to Indianapolis. How did you get here? And, obviously besides its proximity to Cincinnati and Bloomington.
Yeah.
What was compelling about Indianapolis?
Obviously I grew up in Cincinnati and I went to IU. So when I was working in Fort Myers, I was looking to get back to either Cincinnati or Indianapolis because you can't afford to live there long term. And I was just looking to make a change. And at that time, John Emmert is his name. He used to work in Fort Myers, was familiar with my work on doing taxpayer accountability type segments. Sure. And he was the assistant news director at WRTV. And at that time, they were looking for somebody to do government watchdog reporting. And he called and said, would you be interested in doing this? And so I said, yeah, and interviewed and got the job. So it worked out.
Did you ever consider sports, weather?
No.
No. Politics? Any of that sort of thing? Because when you came to RTV, but Norman Cox had been here a long time, and the wonderful Jack Reinhardt had been here a long time.
Yeah,
Derek Thomas, the list goes on and on,
honestly,
right?
I was the baby. That's what's so crazy is I wish that, the people that I work with today could have been there in 2009 because, when I walked in the door, like you said, it was Derek Thomas, Rafael Sanchez, Jack Reinhardt, Norm Cox, Stacia Matthews, Grace Trahan. You're talking about people that had decades and decades of experience. And I had quite a bit of experience by that point. I had 8 years of experience when I started at WRTV. So I was already had some experience, but it paled in comparison to what these guys had. And I learned so much from them, but it was also really intimidating, to work in a newsroom where you had so many legends. Keyword legends. But so yeah, I wanted to get back to Indianapolis. I liked the size of the city and I wanted to be closer to home. I loved being close to IU and being able to go to games and stuff like that. So that was really fun. And I had a lot of friends that lived in Indianapolis too.
I was going to ask you how many of the fellow School of Journalism folks do we know? Who's named? Anyone work in this market at all?
I don't know. Not anybody in my class that I remember. I know that's so bad. There is a woman named Heather, and I can't remember her last name, but I'm pretty sure she reports for ESPN, and she was in my class, and she's amazing. But yeah, not a whole lot of people that I remember from journalism school, but a lot of my sorority sisters that graduated the same year live in Indianapolis. It was a lot of people moved away to Chicago or other cities, and then when they started to have kids, they all kind of trickled back to Indianapolis.
I mentioned the Indiana Daily Student a few minutes ago. It's made the news itself. Or it didn't really make the news. It was thrust into the news. Yeah. I know sometimes you have to be circumspect about commenting because you never know what you're going to cover. But on a sadness scale of 1 to 10, did what's going on kind of make you wince or frown?
Absolutely. You don't want your school to be in the headlines for the wrong reasons. And, that definitely did some damage and very much a concern. So, yeah, I hated to see it. It wasn't good.
You're listening to the Leaders and Legends podcast. Our guest is Kara Kenney. It's nice to have you on the other side of the microphone for a change. Kara, is there a particular Hoosier leader and or legend you admire most?
Oh, man, that's hard. Oh. Can I marinate on that?
Is that what you allow? I'm trying to think. Did you allow me to marinate on any of your questions?
Let me think about that one. That one's tough.
We'll come back to it.
Sounds good.
Do you have, if not necessarily a favorite story, but a story that has stuck with you over the years for good or bad?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few. But actually, like my favorite story that I ever did was one I did in Fort Myers. But it's something that I think, Indianapolis, listeners and viewers would resonate with. It was we exposed a phony war hero. It was a guy that would show up to parades decked out in medals. And the man had never been in combat. He was in the military. We did a FOIA request for his DD-214s, and turns out that he was a fraud. And
how did he get?
He bought them.
Well, I know that
Literally
you can get them
bought them.
you can buy them over through the internet or at the Army Navy store or whatever. But who's the one who said, "Hey, this guy's strutting around like Audie Murphy"?
Veterans at the parades. So they were the ones that contacted me and asked if I would do something about it, and I said, "Yeah." So once we got his records, that's when, we tried to talk to him, and we showed up at his door. The guy answered the door with no shirt on, grabbed the camera, said that he was not a fraud. Well, it turns out that he was, and he ended up getting criminally charged. And the judge at the time in Naples, Florida, told him that it was a 5-year sentence, I believe, and he had to clean the toilets at the jail every Veterans Day and Memorial Day for like 5 years. So it just sticks in my mind because it's just, I mean, it felt so good to bring that to light and to earn those medals. I mean, that's not something that is taken lightly by members of the military, veterans society. And so that was just, man, that was a good story to
Yeah, we don't like that on the Leaders and Legends podcast.
I love that story.
Can you think of a story you wanted and didn't get? Perhaps in this market?
Man, I don't know about that, but I will say that is a constant fear, I guess, of mine is that, we get so many tips, and it's, as much as I try to discern off the top what is going to be worth my time and what's not, you always sort of have that in the back of your mind and worry, oh man, am I letting one get away?
Right.
But I am by myself. I don't have a producer that helps me. I'm the only investigative reporter. So I'm very much a one-man show in terms of research and stuff. So I have to try to make a decision like, is this juice going to be worth the squeeze?
Right.
You know what I mean? Is this going to be worth the time, energy, and effort to look into? So there have been times, I can't think of the specific story, that I have passed on a story and I've seen it in the paper. And I that definitely hurts. But at the same time, you just say, I made the best decision that I could at the time. It was a really heavy lift for me at the time, and I just couldn't do it then. But I'm glad. I mean, I'm always glad that somebody picked it up and could do it. There's times where I've seen, stories that I've had to pass on at the time because I just couldn't do it that have ended up in the newspaper. It's been a while, but I mean, it does happen.
Sure. Have you looked back and said, man, I was just too easy on him. Or, damn, I was just harsh on her.
Yeah.
Because you don't get a do-over once it's broadcast.
No, I mean, I would say, gosh, and I don't remember the guy's name, but he had a reputation for being a white supremacist, and he got hired at DCS. This was probably like 10 years ago. And
not the guy on Emerson.
I don't know his name.
Emerson Avenue. Remember that story? The guy who's got the not important.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'd have to look up his name. I'm horrible with remembering people's names, but I mean, this is like over a decade. But anyway, he had a reputation for being a white supremacist and was sort of like a national figure at the time. And he was hired at the Indiana Department of Child Services. And I actually talked to him on camera. And that would be an example where, like, looking back, like, I probably should have been a little bit tougher on him and asked more tough questions. But for the most part, I really tried to be, it's a fine line, right? You want to be fair. You want to be gracious in the fact that somebody's agreeing to talk to you. I don't take that lightly. But at the same time, you don't want people to say, well, that was a softball interview. You let them off easy. So it's like you want to walk that tightrope of being like tough but fair.
Well, is there a situation where the bigger the transgression or perceived transgression, the harsher you're expected to be?
Yeah.
Somebody steals 5 cents out of the out of the bucket at Salvation Army, okay, you're terrible, but someone steals $1 million or runs this Ponzi scheme or, white supremacist, whatever. It's like, look, people are expecting me to pin this guy.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is like, no matter what it is, I try to keep my voice even. So like, even if somebody's raising their voice, that I am keeping my cool.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really hard thing to do. I'll give you an example.
You got teenage daughters.
Yeah,
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I know. It's difficult. So we were interviewing. Okay, so there was, this was at a local school district that they were found to be in violation of the open door law, because I believe they told parents they couldn't record public meetings, and you can't do that. So we wanted to talk to the board members about why they told parents they couldn't record the meetings. And basically they kept telling us, well, you have our statement. And I was like, no, I have a statement from the district's paid spokesperson. I want to talk to you, the elected school board member, about this. And they kept saying, you have our statement. You have our statement. You have our statement. And it was so difficult in that moment to not get upset or, because it was like, it was like talking to the wall, and you kind of, so when you watch the interview, you can see me at one point I kind of tossed the paper down that they were handing me their prepared statement. I said, I don't want this statement.
You think they don't besides the fact that they don't want to get tripped up, that a lot of folks you talk to who take that stance don't understand this is a visual medium. Like, you can write a statement for the newspaper and that's perfectly fine, all well and good, but that's not going to work for me or any other TV reporter.
Right. Absolutely. And there are times where a statement is sufficient. Like, maybe that is all that we have time for. We don't have time to go and wait at a public meeting. And like, maybe we need a statement like right then and there. And sometimes that works, but there are times where it doesn't. And I think as an elected official, there are times where you just need to say something and be responsive to the people that elected you. And I just felt like it was a really inappropriate response to the people that they serve. And so I could feel myself getting upset on behalf of the taxpayers that brought this to us. And so when you talk about, I don't know how you rank like what they did in the general scheme of things, but like you talk about, like, I'm definitely trying to keep my cool at all times, no matter what type of response I'm getting. So
let's say I own a sandwich shop and you want to interview me and I'm just like, go to hell, I'm not talking to you. Does a part of you go, okay, look, he's a private citizen, he doesn't want to talk, that's fine. But if I'm the mayor of Smallville and you want to talk to me, you don't feel that person should receive the same sort of break, for lack of a better term? Like, no, you've put your name on the ballot, people voted for you, you're in charge of public money.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely, you're held to a higher standard. And I think there are certain people that are held to a higher standard and should be responsive to the people. And I believe that would be all elected officials, whether they're state or local, whether you're a township board member, school board member, mayor, city council person, state representatives, state lawmakers. Like, those are people that should, in my opinion, be willing to speak on camera and answer questions that their constituents have. I wish people would look at it as we are a tool of communication with the people that you serve. You're not talking to Kara Kenney, you're talking to your viewers. Yeah. And I would say that we give more grace to private citizens because they are not voluntarily putting themselves out there. People that are police officers, fire departments, I mean, some would argue they are also held to a higher standard because, like police, they're there to serve and protect. And unfortunately or fortunately, they are held to a higher standard. So yes, not everybody is the same. And I think we do hold elected officials to a higher standard in terms of speaking on camera and our determination to get them on camera.
Remember the time you stalked Mayor Ballard?
Yeah.
It was at the convention center.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't talk to you
that was
or
an example
something?
of, I'm sure that at the time we had reached out and asked him to sit down with him. And I'm sure we probably said, like...
Do you remember what he said in his responses? Go ahead.
The paradigm we inherited.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And I don't know who called me first, you or someone in the administration. I had left by then. And I remember asking you for a do-over.
Yeah, and we did it.
And you did, and it was fine. And it was fine.
But
you
we
didn't.
Still aired the
That's right.
clip. Yes.
That's right.
Yep.
You mentioned.
And I feel like that was fair because, we were fine doing an updated interview and adding the interview, but I couldn't ignore that had just happened. I believe the topic was it animal welfare or animal shelter? I believe it was at the time that every other animal that came through the shelter was getting euthanized.
Yeah.
It was like 50% back then, which was a lot. And there were concerns and all I remember, this was so long ago. This was was this 2010?
I was gone.
Yeah,
so I left in November of 10. I think it was in the summer.
Okay. All right.
I just remember the sun shining through the windows at the convention center and talking to him about it. And, Mayor Ballard he wasn't treated poorly by the news media in any stretch.
That's the only quote unquote negative interaction I can ever recall having with him. Otherwise, I think it was good.
But at the beginning, he was, and it wasn't much anyone could do about it. You once called Marcus Barlow your fave, which still sticks right here in my heart. But, Marcus and I had a tough time. Jim Pittman, Mark Lauder, all the folks who worked for the mayor. He was so much of an unknown. You weren't here when he won in 7.
Yeah.
And it took a lot to get that sort of credibility that he needed. When I talk to groups and we discuss PR and media and all that sort of thing, I say, credibility is everything. It's the beginning. It's the end. Yeah. It's why you get ignored. It's why you get covered. It's why people listen. It's why people don't listen.
Yeah.
In journalism, credibility, how important?
Oh, it's critical. Honestly, that's why I work so hard to make sure that my stories are fair and accurate, because my reputation and my credibility is everything. That's how I get people to talk to me. That's how I get sources to talk to me. That's how I get officials to sit down with me. Because if I'm not credible, you have nothing. No one's going to want to talk to you. No one's going to talk to you on the record, off the record. So it's crucial.
Is longevity part and parcel of credibility? I think we named them Bob Siegel, Russ McQuaid, and you are the only reporters who are in the market still.
What about Emily Longnecker? Has she been around? I think she may have been here around when I got here. I'll have to ask her.
Has she been?
I don't know, but she seems like she's been in the market a long time.
Oh, God, now I have to text her and ask her. God, I'm in so much trouble. Point is that when I left the mayor's office in November of 10, because, he's an anchor more of. I'm talking about reporters, but, Emily's a big Godfather fan, so I'll be sleeping with the fishes if I've gotten this one wrong. It's difficult for me, and for not just for me, it's difficult on my side of the divide as a PR person. It's like, who do I call? How is it in a journalism sense?
Oh, 100%. I get that a lot, where it's like, hey, you're the only person I still know in news. I talked to you back in 2011 about my apartment complex, and now my mom needs help because she's having an issue with her assisted living. It is to the point where there's been so much turnover that a lot of times the tips come to me that aren't really investigative, that it's just people need help, or I'm like a point person for the station because
that's a testament. That's a compliment to you.
Absolutely. I take it as a compliment. Like, hey, they thought of me. They remembered me. They associate me with WRTV. I'm happy to help. And a lot of times I can't do the story, but I'm happy to share it with a newsroom or another reporter that might be able to pick it up. So, yeah, this market has had hundreds of journalists leave in the time that I've been here. And it's a weird feeling to be one of the senior people, because it doesn't seem that I've been here that long, you know what I mean? I don't feel old.
That's because your husband is so amazing.
I know, he is great.
And Phil's in the business. We won't dime him out, but he's in the business. How much does that help you?
Oh, it helps tremendously because, he gets it, and he always has. So I think if you haven't worked in news, it's really hard to kind of understand what we're up against and just the stresses and the things that, keep us up at night. So I think it definitely helps to have somebody that understands all that.
Has the phrase, "You're going to talk to me eventually, you may as well do it now," has it ever worked for you?
No, I would say that probably the phrase that maybe works the most is this story is happening whether you talk to me or not. And this is your opportunity to make sure that your point of view is included. Because I think sometimes people really do think that if they don't talk to me, that I don't have a story. And almost always, I don't need you to talk on camera to give me a story. I've already got all the information. You're just the cherry on top.
Sure.
Sometimes when people realize, okay, this is happening, and I can either be in or out. My pet peeve, and maybe you could talk about this, is when somebody has refused to be a part of the story, and then they like to cut it up after the fact. And then they say, well, it felt a little one-sided. And you go, well, remember when I offered to sit down with you and speak with you on camera?
We have a few more minutes with Kenney, a longtime veteran, established, credible TV reporter here in the Indianapolis market for WRTV, a wonderful station. To go on to that real quick, here's why it's a little different. Like for me, and maybe someone like, let's say Jennifer Wagner, who I adore.
Yeah, she's great.
Even though she went to journalism school and I didn't, except in the military, I came up through politics. So I don't have any PR training. I never took a PR class or any of that stuff. So I'm used to going on camera and fighting.
Yeah.
That's just part of the shtick if you're a communications director or you work for a candidate or any of that sort of thing, right? Like that's part of it.
Yeah.
And it's usually a lot of fun because you can really make your bones by, especially as a Republican, because, we don't cotton to the news media, especially the Washington, D.C. news media very well.
Right.
And so, when I have clients, the one thing they'll say is, well, can you do the interview for me? And I say, not at the price I just quoted you. Like, if you want me to do that, I'll do it. And I encourage them only because, and it's not always the best thing, and I get talked down, but my reflex is go on TV and tell them to go to hell. I mean, I remember telling Greg Ballard, whether it was, you or Brendan O'Shaughnessy at the time, or Mary Mills, obviously, from Channel 13, they don't know more about this than you.
Right.
So what are you scared to talk? Not scared, but why are you so reluctant to talk to them? Like, well, they're going to ask this, they're going to ask that. I'm like,
so answer it.
I'm like, but they don't know more than you.
Right.
Like my biggest worries.
Yeah.
My biggest worries are when I went into interviews and I'm thinking, I don't really know this very well.
Yeah.
And it's going to come. And I couldn't say no because I worked for the city.
Yep.
Credibility in the news media. Staying away from politics, of course, because that doesn't do us any good here. I've asked this question of other journalists. Public confidence in the media, if it's not at an all-time low, it's right there.
Yeah.
Is that fair? And to the extent it is fair, how does the media get some of this credibility back? Because you don't want to be down there with the politicians.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's fair. I can say after working in newsrooms for 25 years that almost every single journalist, manager that I've ever met just wants to do a good job, just wants to tell the truth, just wants the facts, wants to be fair, wants to be accurate, doesn't want to spin stuff. And maybe I think part of the problem is the blur that has happened between local news and national news. I think there is a lot of confusion among people in terms of local news reporters like WRTV, THR, the Indy Star versus CNN, Fox News.
Well, the Fox Local gets confused with Fox News all the time.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. They're completely different. I mean, Fox 59 is owned by Nexstar. They're not owned by Fox News. We're talking about different operations, different owners. We're owned by EW Scripps. We're not owned by ABC or Disney. They're not making the decisions. That's the programming that runs on our air. But I don't recall ever being told you can't do that story because they're an advertiser. I've never been told that. In fact, I've been told go ahead. So I think if people were to peel back the curtain and see how we make the decisions about which stories we cover, why we cover what we do, they would be pleasantly surprised at just how honest and hardworking and fair journalists are and how they really just want to cover their communities. And I think we've been lumped in with cable news shows, which are more of an entertainment type thing, that are, these sort of talk shows and entertainment. I think they're not the same thing in my opinion. And I think that's been lumped together. But I think, have journalists always done the right thing? No. But I think that what may be hurting us is just the whole influencer vibe that is kind of out there. And I think with the TikToks and stuff, it's hard because I feel like we need to be journalists first. And, there's that line of like, there's a lot of journalists that can come across as maybe influencers. And to muddy the waters even more, there's influencers that are sort of acting as journalists too. So I think, to answer your question, I think the lines are getting very blurry in terms of, who is an actual journalist. And so I think we just need, as credentialed media, we just need to make sure that we're doing the best job that we can. And that's the only way to keep credibility, is to be fair, to be accurate. I know I've said these words like multiple times during this podcast, but like really that's everything, because they will take any mistake in any of your stories and paint you with that entire brush and say, well, she can't get that right. What else has she getting wrong? And so I'm relentless about making sure that our stories are accurate and that they're as fair as possible.
We were chatting for a few minutes before we hit record about especially the brilliant job Angela Ganote does on social media. How important is it to you to step away from social media?
Yeah, I think it is important. It's a really fine line. And I think it's really hard when you're getting the notifications on your phone all day. I have a personal Facebook. I have a professional Facebook. I have X. I have LinkedIn. I have Instagram. It can get really overwhelming. And I really do try to take a break. But it's hard, because that is where our viewers are. That is how they're communicating with us. They are commenting on the stories that are posted on Facebook. They're asking questions. I try to interact with them. I don't want to put content out there and then just ghost people. So when I post a story and people comment, I try to interact with them. But yeah, it is time consuming. And so props to, people like Angela Ganote that are regularly on Facebook or X posting information about different stories that aren't even stories that are ever going to make it on television. And, my colleague, Nicole Griffin, who's one of our anchors, she also does a lot of that, where it's like, that's not her story of the day. She's just posting information. Maybe it's about the roads or whatever. So yeah, it's a really fine line. It's like, you want to be in that space because you want to communicate with your viewers, but at the same time, you want, a life where you're not on your phone all the time.
Give us, before we get to the 5 questions, now 6 questions, before we end the podcast, throw us PR people a bone. Do you know when someone has gotten bad PR advice or good PR advice? Or do you like going, I mean, I know you would never say this to them, but you're like, man, you need to hire somebody.
Yeah.
Do you remember, and just real quick, do you remember when you called me about a client I had and asked me, did you talk to this? Are you helping him? Remember, it was off the record. Do you remember?
No, I don't. Oh, man.
And then remember the time you were in my backyard?
I don't remember this either.
You and the cameraman were in the backyard doing a story about I-65, and you just walked, and you didn't know it was my house.
Oh, really?
Remember that? Wow. Now you came walking up the backyard. I was like, what in the hell are you doing here? And you're like, what are you doing here? I'm like, this is my house, freak.
What year was this?
It was Southport. I lived in Southport.
It was the sound wall? The sound wall. Yeah. Okay. I think we interviewed Mike Speedy for that.
In my backyard.
Yeah, probably. It sounds like it. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but like literally a million things have happened since then. So sometimes like my memory is like hazy of like.
Well, Kenney doesn't show up in your backyard very often, right? It's a little more memorable.
Oh, man. When you ask about PR advice, I would say the times where it's mostly where people just don't respond. I think that's where you're like, are you working with somebody, or like they just say no comment? It's like, to me, you got to say something. There are very few times where I feel like no comment is acceptable. Like maybe it's like an ongoing case and like legally you really can't comment on it. But beyond that, like find something to say. So I don't know. Have you ever given that advice to any of your clients to just say no comment?
Not really, because most of the time I get hired because they want someone who's going to go to the mattresses for them. So that's a big part of it. Most of the time, I always think that you're the best teller of your own story.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a statement is what a lot of people do, which I get.
Yeah.
It doesn't allow for the interaction, which is what they're mostly afraid of, or that you have some secret, little piece of information that they don't know you have. Mm-hmm. But the particular time is when you were doing a story, the time that you called me and you said, I got to ask you something off the record, but it's been years now. Yeah. So, and it wasn't some big giant deal per se.
Yeah.
Is when you did a story about the Broad Ripple Garage.
Yeah.
And you interviewed your interview subject in the afternoon, and they called me panicking early in the morning, and I went and helped them for an hour or so, hour and a half before you interviewed. And because this person, who I won't name, is prominent and politically involved, you figured it, you called and said, I need to ask you something off the record. And I was like, okay. And you asked me, you just kind of said, hey, did you help this person?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, I did. And your response was, damn it, I could tell. Which I always took as a compliment. I thought it was really sweet.
Yeah, that's good.
And but a big part of what I do, or Laura Beck, or Francesca, the list goes on, Sarah.
Yeah, there's so many great ones.
They're terrific. Nicole Becker, we were talking about, is to try to explain to the subject or whatever, the person you're interviewing, is if you don't want to talk to them, then why did you do it in the first place?
Yeah.
So now you've brought me in, you admit that it's an issue,
right?
You don't want to face the fire, and you think that's going to put the fire out.
Yeah.
Or anyone in my business could tell you how many times you get called and say, can you stop them from doing that story? And I said, if you can prove demonstrably that it's false, completely false, yes. Well, it's not completely false. And I'm like, well, then no.
Yeah, that's good advice.
And that's where these people deserve an advocate. Yep. Jim Voiles and other attorneys I've had on, they deserve an advocate. And it's an interesting balance. But I don't know too many people who were in the media and then went to PR. Jennifer Wagner did. Yeah. She was at the Star. But I know tons of people who were in the media and now do PR.
Yes.
The brilliant brilliance.
Brilliance. Yep.
The brilliant brilliance.
Yep.
Could you ever see yourself doing that?
Of course, yeah, because I think there's a lot of similarities because you're still gathering information, you're still, serving, the public, you're still serving your clients, or the clients are different, but yeah, I mean, and you still have that creative outlet where you're telling stories. That is appealing to me, but I'm sort of at that point where we need journalists. And I'm not ready to give it up just yet. But I mean, yes, there's always that possibility down the road. I would never say never, but there's a lot of really great, PR firms in this town, but we need journalists. We really do. And so I'm clinging to the ship.
We've reached the point on the Leaders and Legends podcast where we ask the same 5 questions of all of our guests.
Oh.
Kara Kenney, are you ready?
I'm ready. Oh boy, I'm nervous now.
What was your first job?
My first job was I worked at Coney Island in Cincinnati, Ohio in rides. So I would run like the Ferris wheel, the bumper boats, the little bumper cars and stuff like that. So that was my first summer job, was working the rides at an amusement park.
What was your first concert?
My first concert, I'm pretty sure, was New Kids on the Block.
NKOTB or New Kids on the Block?
No, it was NKOTB. I'm pretty sure they opened for like Tiffany at Timberwolf, which was a venue at Kings Island in Cincinnati. But I'm pretty sure Tiffany was the main act and they were the opening act. So yeah.
Did you go to Kings Island a lot since you lived in Cincinnati? I mean, that must be wild to have that place so close.
Yeah, it was awesome. I had a season pass, and I don't even remember how old I was, but my parents would just drop us off, and 12 hours later, come get us. Here's $20 for food. You know what I mean? Those were the days.
If you could suggest any book for someone to read, which book would you recommend?
Oh, man, that is a hard one. Can I pass? I've read so many good books lately, but I'm trying to think of one book that I would recommend. I love the author Kristen Hanna.
Mhm.
The Great Alone, it's about a man and his daughter living in Alaska, and he starts to lose it. But I would say anything by Kristen Hanna, but I can't think of like one particular book. I really prefer to read fiction, and my goal for 2026 is to scroll less and read more. I'm on my third book, and it's January 27th. That's not too bad, right? I'm on
Not
my
too
third
bad.
book already this month. So
Not with two
yeah.
young kids.
Yeah.
I mean, driving around everywhere.
Yeah, I read in small segments.
If you could witness any event in history, be there in person as it happens, which event would you choose?
Any event in history. Oh, I would say when we finally have a female president, I would like to be there.
That's the future.
Yeah, it has to be in the past. Well, obviously history is the past, but I didn't know if it was like, okay.
I can't wait till the next time you interview me.
I know.
I'm going to be passing and not answering the question and ruminating.
Hey, really quick, I want to point out that during interviews with people, even when we're holding them accountable, I still tell them, like, this is not live. Like, we can take a break whenever you want. My goal is not to make you look bad. And I think people are thrown by that. They think, that they're like, wait, okay.
I've got an anecdote between you and me that's going to prove that point. That'll be part of my closing.
Okay. Gotcha. All right.
Witness any event in history. Sports.
So many. I mean, maybe the Hoosiers' last basketball win.
87? You mean when they won the national championship?
Uh-huh.
If you could have dinner with anyone living today,
Mm-hmm.
2 hours off the record just to chat, whom would you choose?
Kurt Signetti. I would love to talk to him.
He's getting increasingly popular as an
answer.
answer.
But I would love to talk to him. I would just love to pick his brain, not just like as a national championship winner, but just like as a strategist and just like a life coach type thing. Like, I feel like he has the keys to life. If he can do what he's done, like, I want to talk to him about like just being the underdog and get his tips. And I feel like he would be a really interesting person to have dinner with, for sure.
You have been listening to Leaders and Legends, a podcast presented by Veteran Strategies, an Indiana-based public relations enterprise. We are also a federally certified veteran-owned small business. As always, all our podcast interviews are dedicated to the legacy and generosity of P.E. McAllister. Our guest today, again, she's won the awards. She gets the viewers. She has the respect of everyone who does what I do for a living. Kenney, you mentioned just a few seconds ago about you're not trying to get him. You're not trying to be harsh. You may remember this because I know you've covered a lot of stories since then. But in 2010, I was working for Mayor Ballard and we were doing the water deal.
Yes, when Indianapolis sold its water utility
to citizens, and one of the great policy wins of
that was
Greg Ballard's time as mayor. And you came down and to the city county building and you interviewed Michael Huber.
Oh, yeah.
Deputy mayor at the time.
Yeah.
We love Michael.
Yeah. What happened to him?
He's now working for Keystone.
Oh,
he was at IU. He was at the chamber, then IU, and now he's at Keystone.
Yeah.
And you asked him a question. I was behind your cameraman. Are you remembering any of this?
Yeah, I do. I don't remember what you said, though. I remember the interview.
He looked at me because he didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I shook my head back and forth. No, don't answer it. Just went no. Moved on.
Mm-hmm.
You aired the story.
Uh-huh.
You didn't air the part where he kind of was like, I'm not really sure, because it kind of wasn't germane.
Yeah.
But you didn't air their part. But do you remember what you did?
No.
You sent me the video of me shaking my head at Michael Huber, not to answer the question.
Just to mess with you? Just to drag you?
Yes. So if you want to know what Kara Kenney is about, I just told you a perfect story. Yeah. Kara, you have given us so much of your time. She's super busy because her phone has been buzzing and ringing the entire time she spent with us. Such respect for you. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
I respect you very much as well. And thank you for always, sort of being a voice of reason with your clients and just, having respect for what we do. It means a lot to have allies like that in the community. So thank you for always being, sort of the voice of reason for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Go Hoosiers.
Go Hoosiers.
Thank you very much for listening to Leaders and Legends, brought to you by Veteran Strategies Incorporated. If you want to contact us about this program or our menu of public relations services, please send us an email at robert@veteranstrategies.com. That's robert@veteranstrategies.com.